uh, he may join late or he may not be able to join today. So we may carry on with the recaps of the previous class and the units. Okay. So can Musabbir, you and Sabah start because since we also have the unit recap.
Okay. Sabah, start first.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sabha Kamal, and I am here to present Tuesday's class recap. In Tuesday's class, we started a new unit, which was organizing. This unit would tell us how an organization is set up and what is the pattern and how we can work more effectively and efficiently. The first question was, what is an organization? In simple words, it is a pattern of relationship through which a group of people pursue a common goal under the supervision of a manager. These goals are set up and attained through various decision-making processes. They are very ambitious and far-reaching, so the managers want to ensure that the framework to achieve these goals is very stable. Taking an example of the company Apple. Apple decides on the pattern of working relationships that will help its employees to capitalize their knowledge. Therefore, organizing is important because the more we are organized, the more effectively we can achieve our goal. Um, we can say organizing is the process of implementation of plans by clarifying the tasks and working relationships, and they are implemented for effectively winning the goals. There are four building blocks of organizing. The first building block is identification and division of work. The first step of organizing should be the identification of the task and then the division of the work. It is based on the strategic plans that an organization has. The goals are created and the work is divided and passed on to their respective managers. The important part when we are identifying and dividing the work is that while identifying the work, we should see that the work is attainable and manageable. And while dividing the work, we should see that the person who has been allotted the task should be able to do it. Also keeping in mind that duplication of work is avoided. If two employees perform the same task, it is simply a waste of time and resources. As long as one employee can handle the task, duplication should be avoided. Division of work helps in spreading and handling the workload among the employees, which is why it is important. The second building block of organizing is departmentalization. Departmentalization is grouping of employees and tasks by identifying similar activities. Every organization has different activities like HR management, finance management, etc., based on which the grouping is done. And the employees of similar activity are grouped together and assigned the tasks. This is how departments are formed. The question arises as to why departmentalization is important. Everyone working in a particular department are specialized in their respective fields, so they can handle the tasks assigned to them more efficiently and smoothly. They are experts in their field because of their repeated work, so the chances of errors are less and it is more efficient. The third building block is the organizational hierarchy. The allotment of the job should be based upon the skills and knowledge of the employee. There should be a match between the two. When there is an organizational hierarchy, people who are performing the tasks have their respective heads they need to report to. So we are talking about the reporting relationships, like who will report to whom. As we studied in the scalar chain of command, which is one of the 14 principles of management by Henry Fayol, the root of commands should be followed. The employees should know where to take the order from and who to report it to. It is important because if an organizational hierarchy is not proper or is missing, it might cause an unnecessary confusion. So it should be very clearly defined. The fourth building block is coordination, which is setting up mechanisms for integrating the departmental activities into a whole and then monitoring them. Coordination is when we are reaching a goal, we need to monitor whether or not this is the goal we plan to achieve. And same way, there should be a coordination between different managers of different levels. After this, ma'am told us a few things about departmentalization. Departmentalization is a process through which activities are grouped together and assigned to their managers. It is a division of work and is the result of managers allotting the tasks to their respective groups. Logical grouping or departmentalization can be done in two broad ways. First is based on functions like HR, marketing, finances, etc. The second one is based on products, their unique needs, their territories. The first one, functional departmentalization, is grouping tasks based on functions like manufacturing, marketing. Few advantages of creating departments around functions are managers are specialized in their respective areas, therefore they are more efficient. There is less duplication of effort and it simplifies training of different employees. The disadvantages are the attention is paid to the attention that a specific product needs or the specific area or market needs are reduced. The managers are specialized managers and not general managers. The second form is creating departments around products or the family of products. Taking the example of ITC or Britannia, the companies that manufacture many different products, like ITC manufactures a huge range of products from cookies to juices to sleepy. Each of its products gets an individual attention as if it's an individual company. Each product has its head and organization team. Advantages of product departmentalizations are since each product gets their required attention, their unique needs gets their required attention. Each product is uniquely addressed. The disadvantages are duplication of efforts because a lot of people are responsible for the same product or same thing. Taking an example of our department, Sir asked us what could be a good basis of division and which one of the two modes would be more efficient for the department. We can divide based on specialization, or we can divide on the basis of subunits like means, hospital administration, international banking, or Islamic banking. Both divisions have their respective advantages and disadvantages. If we go around functional departmentalization and we create departments around functional expertise of teachers, we have a team that is looking after a particular specialization that could make the learning more efficient. But the unique need of the product, or as in this case, the students belonging to a particular unit, will be overlooked. For example, the students of hospital administration should be trained differently. They should have more exposure to hospitals and departments of the hospital. Generally, when you have a functional based departmentalization, the unique needs of the product are almost always overlooked. Sir explained this further with an example from his personal life where he visited a company named Mohan Meakin, which manufactured liquor and food products. The marketing of the two is very divergent. So the company had a liquor division and an F&B division, food and beverage division, which dealt with the food products. So each product got the required attention and marketing. So in conclusion, the judgment of division should be made based on the size and the unique characteristics of the product. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabah. Sabir,
Yes, ma'am.
can you please start?
Yes, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum, each and everyone. Myself, Muhammad Masubbir Hassan, and I will be presenting the recap of previous class. In the previous class, we were discussing about organizing, and we know organizing is basically the arrangement of some work or project, anything. Okay, and organizing basically tells us how an organization should be set up and its workload can be divided, how it can work effectively and efficiently. And in any organization, there is a certain goal that we want to achieve. And to achieve that goal, there must be a framework, a structure of organization. For understanding these things, we take the examples of our university. There is a university in which there is vice chancellor, dean, a principal, and all. There is many more workers. But if we take these examples, we see also there is a department of different subjects. For example, physics, English, MBA. And if we look at these departments, what we see, there is division of work. What is division of work? They have divided that the science should be studied in these departments, and business and the subject related to business should be studied in the MBA department. Why we have divided this work? Because if we divide the works, it becomes attainable for us. And moreover, we can also see here that we have divided the work into departments, and when we divide the work into departments, what we see, we have also we are also using experts faculties for that subject, to pursue the purpose of business administration, pursue the business of subject physics, and pursue the business of and pursue the goals of English, and etc. So what we see here is there is division of work, there is departmentalization, and in each departmentalization work, there is also one thing, that each department is answerable to a person which is at higher uh, authorities, which is a higher authorities for them. For example, in a department, each teacher or employees is answerable to their respective chairman, or and the chairman is responsible for to whom, dean, and similarly dean is answerable to whom, vice chancellor. We see that there is a chain of employees who is answerable to their higher authorities. If it is not, then what will happen? There will be a misunderstanding, and if there is not a questionnaire, or if we are not able to answer anyone, then we are actually, that organization doesn't work efficiently. That's why there should be a clear cut margin where we should what we have to do, and to whom we have to report our work. That's why there should be a hierarchy, there should be a specific hierarchy to whom we have to answer. Next thing, if we see the example of the same university, we see that there is a mechanism which coordinates the integration, which coordinates okay, what we have to achieve in final goals. For example, departmental activities, for example, physics, MBA, and all other subjects, we are studied in different departments, but we correlate with each other, integrate combinedly to achieve the goals of universities. But during departmentalization, we see two things. What we see here, during the departmentalization, we have seen that there should be a division. There should be a division on the basis of function. Like, function is what here? Business is different thing, and physics is different thing, English is different thing. Okay, then we have, what we have done here is, we have first divided the whole things in the on the basis of function, because they are entirely different thing. But we came to a department, there is a further division, that this subject should be taught by that teacher, and there's, what we see here is, there is a division of work, there departmentalization on the basis of activities. And by doing so, in any organization, we can achieve a common goals, which is basically the last thing that we want to achieve in any organization. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you, Musabbir. So we just had recap from Sabah and Musabbir. So I can share my feedback with you both. Sabah, you presented very well, and like your friends can acknowledge, they can appreciate that you have covered almost all the points which were discussed in the previous class. You were confident. You tried to maintain. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Is anybody else speaking?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Everybody else is saying something. And you were able to maintain the eye contact, Sabah, and also you have a very good command over your language. Do you notice any other feedback which you think you may improve upon? Any of your own reflection?
Ma'am, I skipped a few points because I got too nervous.
Huh?
Ma'am, I skipped a few points because I got too nervous. So next time I will skip.
I think because of the time limit, also you
Yes,
had
ma'am.
to, because all the important points you covered, but
Yes.
maybe going in details would have you might have taken
Few
more time.
advantages and disadvantages were not
Yes,
covered.
because you already took maybe 1 or 1.5 minutes above the allotted time, so
Yes,
it was
ma'am.
important to cut down the matter, and also at one point where you can maybe and you were very content rich, as I said that you covered all the points, but at one point maybe you can improve your content more. Maybe when a teacher uses any example in the class, you can try to use another example, right? For example, I shared the example of Apple, or I shared the example of ITC. Maybe you could have shared an example of any other organization. Instead of Apple, you could have taken Dell. You could have taken, there's so many, right? And instead of ITC, you could have taken any other company. So this is something in which you can bring variation, and you can share another example.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am. Thank you,
Otherwise,
ma'am.
all very good. Thank you. And Musabbir, you also tried to present the matter in a crisp manner, but somehow I realized that you missed out many points, like the four building blocks were not discussed. Or correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, do correct me if I'm wrong.
Ma'am, I have discussed four building blocks in case of taking in the examples.
करेक्ट करेक्ट बट देन थोड़ा सा अगर आप उनकी टर्म्स यूज कर लेते हैं ना, एक तरह से अगर आप उनको फोर बिल्डिंग ब्लॉक्स कह के फोर पॉइंट्स आप एक बार बस क्विकली कह देते थे, फोर बिल्डिंग ब्लॉक्स ये हैं, एंड देन आई मीन टू से देन the student or the listener can focus more on your example, right? When those four building blocks will be shared in your example, right, they can focus more on those terms when you are explaining that in the example. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Otherwise, that was a good idea that you tried to present it in a different manner, with the help of the example of the university where the dean, principal, and teachers are there, and also the subjects like we discussed yesterday. Um, but you finished before time, and sometime it is and that also in 3 minutes, I guess, you finished. So somehow you need to manage the time in that aspect as well, that how to cover the whole time, right? And you were using your hands, which is good way of explaining the things, but still I think you like sir mentioned yesterday, that you can write before you speak, you can write before you present, and it will help to not to search for words when you speak. Okay,
Yes,
Munsab?
yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Can we have the unit presentations now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jasmine Malhotra, and my group members are Areeb Salman, Anas Samad, and Muskan Agarwal. Today, we are going to represent the recap of Unit 2, that is planning and decision making. First of all, our Unit 2 begins with the question, what is planning? So, planning involves basically two things. First, we have to decide on an action plan, which includes that what is to be done, why it is to be done, and how it is to be done. And the next important aspect is the goal setting process. We know that every planning begins with a vision. So, first, let us understand what are these aspects of planning. Firstly, whenever we have decided to work upon a task or achieve an objective, the first important question arises that why we want to do so. Like while planning, we have to first ask us a question that why are we planning to do that a particular task? After deciding on why we want to complete that task and why we want to achieve it, next important question comes that what do we have to actually do? So this what question states the goal setting process. Third important thing is how we have to implement that task or the objective we have to achieve. So when we talk about how we have to do that task, it involves the implementation of the plan we have made. Now, let us move forward and understand what is goal setting. Goal setting is an important part of our planning, as it begins with a vision and it ends at the point where we are achieving the targets. The entire goal setting process is the strategic intent of an organization. So, goal setting is a thorough process where we look forward to present our vision, moving on to vision, and then objectives, goals, and then are finally achieving the targets. Now, moving forward, we should analyze that what is a vision. As defined by C.K. Prahlad, vision is the ability to unfold the future in. We can also say that an appropriate word in Hindi to define vision is soch, and in English, it is foresight. So, foresight is the combination of two things, that is, hindsight and insight. Now, what is hindsight? Like, hindsight is the sorry. Hindsight is something when it is done and we have to analyze it. And insight is the upper analyzation of the situation. Next, we move on to mission. After we analyze our vision, the important thing is that we have to decide on a mission, that what we actually have to do. What is mission? It is a specific contribution to the society. It gives us a purpose for our existence. Mission, when once formulated, should serve the organization for years. But yes, we should change the missions very often when the time changes. After deciding on to mission, the next important thing is to analyze the objectives we have to achieve. Objectives are the open-ended attributes which help in the accomplishment of mission. Next, after deciding on objectives, next important thing is goals. What are goals? Goals are the closed-end quantifiable objectives with a fixed time frame for achieving it. Any organization, when divide its objectives into smaller tasks, makes different level of goals, and at the last comes the targets. Goals, when broken down into short term, medium term, and long term goals, becomes the targets, which make that we are on the right track. So, for illustrating this whole process, we have discussed the vision of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who had a vision to uplift the Muslim society and bring the education part of the society so that we can move on to a better future for the people of the country. So his mission was to introduce Talim-e-Tarbiyat. So he put on his objectives to install an institution like AMU. There were many goals by where he wanted to plan things and make an institution where people can learn about the things. There were many objectives like upliftment of people and introducing physical and proper infrastructure for the people, etc. Now, I would like my partner Areeb to continue the presentation to define how to set effective goals. Thank you.
Hey everyone. Now let's look at the point of how to set challenging goals, or we can say effective goals. So while setting up the challenging goals, the following elements must be present. Like Sir said, we should aim at setting at the SMART goals, where we can differentiate SMART as S stands for specific, M stands for measurable, A stands for attainable, R stands for relevant, and T stands for time based. Moving ahead, which means that the goal should be well defined, clear, and it should be unambiguous, or we can say unbiased. M stands for measurable, which means that the process of the organization can be measured by the accomplishment of the goals. A is achievable. The goals which you have set, they should be achieved easily. R stands for relevant, that the goal should be realistic and must create an engagement with others. T stands for time bound, which means the goal should not be for very long, it should be short time periods, so it's better to achieve them. Moving on, let's say about the process of setting goals. Like sir told that there could be two approaches, top to bottom approach and bottom to up approach. If you look at the top to bottom approach, in this approach, objectives are set by the top level management. This approach is basically called the authoritarian approach because only top level management makes these decisions. It is also known as the traditional approach, which many company uses. Let's come to the bottom-up approach. In this approach, top-level management engages with the lower management functionaries like managers and subordinates to help them make their decisions. This approach involves in participation and collaboration with the other organizations also. According to Peter Drucker, this management term is used. He used this term as management by objective. Coming to the management by objective. Management by objective is a technique which is used by many firms to assist in the process of setting organization wide objectives and goals for subsidiary units for their employees. Like you can see in the picture, the process has been briefly defined like it is a process of setting mutually agreed upon goals. Example, manager and his subordinates work together for setting up the goals. Management of objective has four element goals. Basically, they have four. I have written four. There are many goals: specificity, participative decision making, and an explicit time period and performance feedback. Management by objective also motivates and monitor employees, and it also control their performance and helps them in evaluating them. Now let's come to the types of plans. On the frequency of use, the plans can be differentiate on standing plans. These are the plans designed to be used again and again. They include policies, procedures, and regulations. Single-use plans are basically the plans for one-time use. Such plans are formulated, solve a particular problem. They include working on projects and budgets. On the basis of horizon, short-term plans. These are the tactical plans, which look at the characteristics of the company in the present and develop strategies for improving them. Long-run plans. These are the strategic plans. These help involves problem solving and achieving long-term targets. On the basis of format, the descriptive plans. These plans express what is to be achieved and how in detailed work. Graphic plans, they express what is to be achieved in the form and they show in the form of charts. There could be many charts like flow chart or histogram, any charts. Coming on, there is a quote that plans plan is nothing, planning is everything. The above statement sums up both advantages and limitations. So if we look at the advantages, planning provides direction. We knows that when we have a set plan, we knows that we have a goal to achieve. Avoid piecemeal kind of decision making. It also facilitates control, and planning reveals future opportunities and threats. Coming to the limitations of planning, planning creates rigidity. Planning cannot work for dynamic environment. Formal planning reinforces success, which may lead to failure. Uh, Coming to the modes of strategy, I would request Anas to kindly explain it.
Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Anas Samad, and as two of my groupmates have discussed till the session 5 of the unit 2, that is, now I am going to present you the planning and its limitations. So, before starting the planning and its limitations, sir gave sir start that class with a question that we all are doing MBA right now, but if we think of the time that we were used to be in class 10, then how many of us had actually thought of doing MBA 5 years down the line? So there are many people among us who were very clear from the beginning, and many of us have switched over to MBA and have experienced this change. To make it more clear, Sir gave his own example. When Sir joined AMU in 1980, his father wants him to do MBBS, and he prepared for it and wrote PMT examination, but unfortunately he couldn't make it. After that, under the influence, he later joined BA History, having a thought of doing UPSC in mind. Then sir also joined. Then sir joined MA History. After that, another incident got happened, and sir met with one of his old classmates who got selected in MBBS in his third attempt. And when sir told him that I am doing MA History, then he was shocked and said that he said that why are you doing MA History being a good student? And he gave advice to sir that why you can go for a diploma so that you can get a better job and can start earning. After that incident, sir had decided to give an MBA examination and he made into it. And after MBA, he qualified JRF as well. During that time, a vacancy cropped up in the department, and sir was the only JRF at that time, and he got the job. Now, sir discussed about the modes of strategy making. So, as my groupmates already discussed about planning so far, so the modes of strategy making. Here is number one mode, which is planning mode of strategy. Planning mode of strategy making. What have our inspiration, and then we specify for others. We plan and then we act. Then Henry Mintzberg coined the second term, which is second mode of the strategy making, which is crafting. What crafting is? Crafting, it is a unique creation. There is a creativity in the crafted product. We are shaping our own lives. That is, we craft our lives. Sir also told us about what is the difference between the crafting and the manufacturing. Crafting means is to make or to produce things with skills. In crafting, no two items are similar. All products in crafting are equal. Because of uniqueness, it has intangible value. Intangible value. In the next class, we studied in life that we often have the contradictory ideas. For example, there is an adage, plan and then move ahead. On the other hand, there is another adage, which is action drive things. We have to do work, and then our mind gets agree with it. It is a cyclical process rather than a linear one. After that, I talked about the different types of strategies, which is intended strategies, deliberate strategies, realized strategies, and emergence strategies. So, what intended strategy is? These are those we want to work for, but most of our intentions remains unrealized. On the other hand, we have the deliberate strategies. These are those strategies we work for. Then we have the realized strategies. It is based upon the combination of originally intended and what happened in the course of life. Then we have the emergence strategies. It is an unplanned strategy that arises in response to the opportunities and challenges. Then sir discuss about the planning model versus crafting model. So what comes under planning model? Planning model is a formal and structured process. It is a controlled and conscious process having distinct steps. Strategies implemented through detailed attention to objectives, budgets, and programs. In planning model, first we formulate and then implement. First we think and then we act. Then here comes the crafting model. Crafted or evolved by the strategist. It is a unique and fuzzy process. Craft involves traditional skills, dedication, perfection through mastery of details. Formulation and implementation merge, a fluid process, creative strategies evolves, action drives thinkings. Thank you. Now I would like to call my fourth groupmate, Muskan Agarwal, to continue further presentation.
Good morning to one and all present here. This side is Muskan. And I would like to add the point of Steve Jobs, who at his speech in Stanford University narrated the three stories. The first one was connecting the dots, which can be in ways try to find an opportunity in each and every situation. And the third one is death, which is quite certain. So we should always stay hungry and stay foolish. Moreover, I would like to add a point that there should always be a combination of literature and management. Now we head towards the decision-making process. Management is a decision-making process. When do we take decisions? First one is when we need to deal with problem, and the second one is when we get an opportunity. Problems are the roadblocks, and opportunity is a chance that we exceed the desired goals. Now further, the decisions can be classified into two types, that is program decisions and non-program decisions. Program decisions are the routine decisions and these are taken on the already established rules, regulations, set guidelines. For example, deciding the payroll by an organization. Then heading towards non-program decisions. Non-program decisions are the non-routine and irreversible decisions. This can be for example, introducing a new product in an organization. Now, I would like to head towards the rational decision making process. The rational decision making process can be divided into four steps. The first one is we need to identify the problem, which involves internal as well as external assessment. The second one is finding out the alternatives. And third one is evaluating the alternatives. Obviously, we should evaluate the alternatives and choose the best suited alternative. The fourth one is implementing the plan. As someone has rightly said that ideas are useless unless they are used. Now coming towards the challenges that are uh, posed on the rational decision making model. The first one is bounded rationality model. This model is developed by Simon and he focus on satisficing. That is, we always try to sufficient the satisfaction, not the maximum satisfaction we try to achieve. We do take the best decision, not the optimum decision. This may be due to inability to get all the information, and further this, if we assume that we are able to get all the information, then processing of that information is difficult for us, and it may be further due to lack of time and other resources that are required. Then now coming to the second criticism of rational decision making model, that is heuristic model. This model is based on thumb rule and stereotypes. There are three heuristics. First one is representativeness. Representativeness is we associate the characteristic of a class to every individual of that class. The second one is past experience availability. Availability can be further divided into two, that is recentness of experience and vividness. Vividness is that some experience do stay with us. Third one is anchoring. Anchoring is decision making always have a reference point. We do have a reference point when we take decisions. Then heading towards last discussion that whether the heuristic model should be adopted or not for decision making. After studying and analyzing the heuristic model, we conclude that although decision making can be quick and effective from heuristic model, but we should always be open-minded and accept if anything contradictory to our experience we face, and we should always be open-minded for it and accept. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Muskan, Anas, Arib, and Jasmine. It was a good presentation. Thank you. And I hope we are able to cover this second presentation as well because we're already short of time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, should I start?
Yes, please start. Yes. And please take care of the timings because we are already short of time, okay?
Sure, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning. I am Zana Fatma Bilrami here to present the recap of Unit 2. I would like to proceed with my presentation. Tony Robbins once said, and I quote, "Setting goals is the first step in turning up the invisible into the visible," unquote. A goal without a plan is just a wish. But what is this planning? Well, it is the process of thinking before doing. It is what bridges the gap between where we are and where we want to be. Planning is pervasive, continuous, futuristic, and it determines what is to be done, when, where, how, why, and who is to do it. Its significance is not limited to only this, but planning is important because it gives direction to action, it reduces uncertainty, and it prevents overlapping. Well, before planning, we have to set our goals, right? Now, speaking hierarchically, there are different types of goals often confused among one another, namely vision, mission, strategies, objectives, goals, and targets. Vision is what we want to accomplish. It is foresighted and long term. Whereas mission is a general statement of how we are going to achieve our vision and has got more to do with fulfilling the needs of the society. Objectives is a specific timeline of how we are going to achieve our goals. And strategies are a series of ways of using our mission to achieve the vision. Now, recalling the example of the construction of the new management complex as given by Sir earlier, the vision of the institute was Talim and Tarbiyat. The mission was to professionalize the management practices. The objective was to make it among the top management complexes and improve its infrastructure. The goal was to get it ready by 2016-17, and the target was to raise 3 crores at the end of December 2016. Now, when we set our goals, they should be SMART, where S stands for specific, M for measurable, A for achievable, R for relevant, and T for time bound. And since we are time bound, I wouldn't go further into the details. There are two approaches of goal setting, namely top to bottom approach, which is also known as traditional approach, where the top level management sets the goals for the rest of the organization without consulting to them. Then comes the bottom-up approach, also known as management by objectives. And here the superiors along with the subordinates, they jointly set the goals for the latter and periodically assess them. Recalling the example Sir had given us of Sir Syed Ahmed Khan, whose initial vision was to establish AMU, but despite the differences in his and Mehdi Mia's ideas, it all got molded into one single vision. Well, this is the beauty of goal setting through engagements. Well, let's not forget the fact that there is always a misdirection of plans, no matter how much we try to prevent it in every organization. And to validate this point, I would like to put forth the story of the 3 people Sir had mentioned who were asked to build a temple and was separately asked about what they were doing. And each of them had given a different answer to the same question. And though they were assigned the same work, they had different approaches for it. So this is what disrupts the unity of vision in the organization. And therefore, I think is an effective management's job to ensure that it directs the vision and the work of the whole organization together to achieve the common goal of the organization without the subordination of interests of the employees at a personal level. And they should be made to feel that their achieving their interests, their goals would in the long term pool together in achieving the goals of the organization. So that's pretty much about it. Thank you. That's from my side. And now I would like to invite Lata to complete the recap.
Thank you, Zainab. A dream without goal is a wish. A goal without plan is just like a dream. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lata, and I would be discussing more about plans and planning in next few minutes. So we have studied different types of plans. Plans with different time horizon, plans with different time frequencies, and plans with different time format. So on the basis of time horizon, we can divide or categorize into short range plans, long range plans, and medium range plans too. So what are the short range plans? So these are the tactical plans. Here we deal with on the short term basis. For example, the frontline managers, they have to deal with the day-to-day planning. Next, we have the long-range plans. So what are the long-range plans? These are the strategic plans, and we deal with the long-term basis. Plans also differs in the format or the way they are expressed in. So the most familiar plans are the descriptive plans. For example, our career plans. Here we are dealing with what we have to achieve and how we are going to achieve that. And next we have the graphic plans. Here we more focus about what to do and when to do. For this, we can show it with the help of charts and diagrams. There is a very interesting statement about the relevance of planning. Plans are nothing, but planning is everything. Now, I wanted to enlighten the positive and negative aspects of the planning. So the first question arises, what planning accomplishes? Whenever we plan, we are able to see ahead. It forces us to rethink, and gradually we become visionary. It also gives a sense of direction or a sense of control. Now, what are the criticisms of planning? The major issue with the planning is of dynamism, and uncertainty. Planning may create rigidity and fixedness. Formal plans replace intuitions and creativity, and plan cannot be developed in dynamic environment. Planning may focuses managers' attention on today's competition, but not on tomorrow's survival. So the lack of continuity and rigidity, one can lose the effectivity or maybe failure. So the challenge of planning is how we can continue our efforts despite success and keep striving for higher and still higher goals, and how we can reach those goals. If we indulge in planning with this thought, then planning is everything. So this is all from my side. Now I would like to call Varis Hussain to continue. Thank you, everyone.
Am I audible? Hello. Am I
Yes,
audible?
you are. Yes,
Okay.
please start.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Lita. And I want to start it with the question which were asked by us to the advisor, that how many of us had thought that we will be doing MBA when we are in high schools. In the answer, we found that most of us had not thought about it, about our aspirations were different from what we are pursuing right now. Sir told us about his life. From it, we can conclude that our life cannot be always what we planned. We face problems in the execution of the plans, grab opportunities, and convert the problems into opportunities. It is the same which happens when we plan something as a manager. For a better implementation of we use different strategy of making a strategy making process. First one is planning, which was already explained. So I come to the second one, which is the drafting model of the Henry Mintzberg. In his word from HUR article, that managers and craftsmen managers are the craftsmen, and the strategy is their clay. Like a potter, they sit between a past of corporate capabilities and a future of market. And if they truly craftsmen, they bring to their work an equally intimate knowledge of material at hand. This is the essence of the crafting strategy. Strategy flourish, evolve, and get shaped over a period of time. Now, the question which we face is, how do we craft a strategy? As Jacob Bronowski quoted, that world can only be grasped by the action, not only the contemplation. Hand is more important than our eyes, and hand is the cutting edge of our mind. We learn by do things by doing and thinking about it, which is a cyclic process. We found that there's always an intended and a deliberate strategy. Our unconscious action in which we indulge in help us learn about the crafting strategy. When these things happen over a period of time, they start making patterns, like it happens with the sir. The passing of Urdu poetry, which he get from his mother, influenced his decision during the selection of his research subject, which was stress management and motivation. And it was a result of both intended and deliberate strategies. So for that, and we can conclude, we can step the topic that we can conclude it that a strategy should be the combination of the deliberate and the intended strategies which you make. And the person should be the one who built on their opportunities. And the third, one of the classes we show the speech of Steve Jobs at Stanford University, and he divided his speech into three parts. First was connecting the dots, which would basically mean that when we look back in our life, we found that the thing which we have done, the decision which we made, are the bricks of the foundation on which we are standing right now. Second one was the love and the loss. When we hit, and it can be accumulated like this, that when we hit the rock bottom, then there's only one way to left to go, that's up. And the love for our passion pushes us to do more and do better. And third one is the debt, and as you know that it's a better thought that is inevitable. And as long as you live, we should follow our heart and do all that stuff. I want to add it to the couplet which I wrote in the answer of the couplet which Sir told us. The couplet which I could not repeat it because of time bounded, just the couplet which I made, that माना की राहें नहीं बदलती हैं किसी के वास्ते, लेकिन जब हम चलना शुरू करेंगे तो नई राहें भी बना लेंगे. That's all from my side. I would like Aslan to cover from further.
Thank you, Aris. Good morning, all of you. So far, we are discussing about the planning in this unit. Major part of planning is related to decision making. Decision making simply means how we choose. The first question here is that when we take decision. And there are two situations when we take decision. The first one is when we face a problem, and the second one is when we face an opportunity. Actually, problem create a roadblock between our present and desired state. and opportunity provides a chance to go beyond that desired state. But if we are responsible, that is, if we respond to a problem, then we can convert a problem to an opportunity. Often we take two type of decision. The first one is program decision, which is also known as routine decision. Problem here are predictable and repetitive, and there are certain rules, conventions based on which we take our program decision. For example, admission process in a university and processing a payroll in any business. The second one is the non-program decision. They are irreversible in nature. Problems here are very unique and complex, and we use our intuition and our judgment and our creativity to make such type of decision. For example, introducing a new course in a college, and or introducing a new product in a business. So the next question here arises: how we take this type of decision? So there are basically three models based on which we take the decision. The first one is the rational model. In this model, we assess our strength and we assess the market. That is, we match our internal capability with the external possibilities. Then we develop the alternatives, and then we evaluate those alternatives and make decision. For example, if after graduation, if we want to make our future plan, so we can use this model. But this model is challenged by a person named Simon. He proposed another model named the bounded rational model. Because we cannot go through a lot of information, so we optimize the decision rather than maximize it. We focus only on relevant information. So the term for this coined by Simon is satisficing. Satisficing means the sufficient satisfaction, not the maximized satisfaction. The third model for the decision making is heuristic model of decision making. Heuristic are basically our own thumb rule. We resolve ourselves to shortcut, and because we want to simplify the decision making process, so we start to differentiate the people and think according to the religion, region, caste, gender, etc. There are three types of heuristics also. The first one is representativeness. In this representativeness, we associate the character of a particular class to whole people belonging to that class. For example, many people believe that the girls cannot study mathematics well. The second one is past experience availability. It also have two dimensions. The first one is recentness. In the recentness, we use the past experience of our recent 2-3 years. And the second one is vividness. Vividness are those experiences that we can never forget. For example, the partition of a country or the Gujarat tragedy. The third one is anchoring. It also depends on our past experience, but we use some sort of reference point, and then with respect to that, we gather knowledge and details, then apply those knowledge for decision making. The last question is that how heuristics are good or bad. So the biggest advantage is that it simplifies the decision making process. It helps in quick decision, but also we know that good judgment also come out of bad judgment. So also sometimes our assumption become wrong, and we should accept. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good presentation from this group as well. And I'm afraid I shall not be able to present the feedback, but I can do one thing. I can share that with the presenters on their WhatsApp.